on to another retro football show, and may look like I'm coming out of heaven here, just the way the lighting kind of works with that. But I'm really here in Mount Manitoba, the 19th floor, actually. But still, it's Mount Manitoba, the home of NotInHallOfFame.com, and I'm your host, Kirk Buchner, and I run that site and the Fictitious Athlete Hall of Fame, the Fictitious Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the United States Athletic Hall of Fame. Go check that out. Vote now. Well, no, don't, not now. Well, unless you're pausing this, then come back. You do that at www.notinhalloffame.com/USA, and you can help decide who is going to be the first class of the United States Athletic Hall of Fame. And I'm joined by Paul Lawrence. How you doing, Paul?
Hey, good. How you doing?
Very, very good. And he knows something about Halls of Fame because that's his handle, Pro Football Hall of Fame Canton guy. Or do I have that right?
Yep.
Okay. So we're actually doing something that we're having a lot of fun. And if you're watching this, or listening to this, you probably want to be a part of this too. We are pretending that we are the Hall of Fame voters and it's 1946. And we're going to be doing this year by year by year because Paul and I pay a lot of attention to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and we look at the backlog. And so we asked ourselves, how different would it be if it started in 46, basically 25 years after the NFL happened? I know that's 26 years, but if you follow the pattern, it kind of makes sense the way we focus in on that. And as we're recording this, tomorrow I'll be announcing the first finalists and all of that. So it's a lot of fun. And if you want to be a voter for this, basically my requirement here, I'm not doing a whole lot of vetting, just don't be a tool. I don't know if the Pro Football Hall of Fame does better vetting than that.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. But either way, it's a lot of fun if you're into that sort of thing, which obviously we are.
Well, it's a cool exercise. I think maybe as you framed it, right? The Pro Football Hall of Fame wasn't established until 1963, and there was 40 plus years of pro football history leading up to that. And so unlike baseball and then even the hockey and the basketball Hall of Fames, the timing of those earlier. So in many ways, as you've mentioned before, the Pro Football Hall of Fame had a real lag. And it really impacted because, yes, they had a big initial class in 63, right? And then they eventually started to elect guys from the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. But because they got a later start, there was a lot missed out. And I think going back and revisiting, and as you've done, and kind of set an earlier date, which is more reflective of a league with a maybe 20 years history, is a neat way to go back and kind of revisit and make sure that none of these guys fell into the cracks and didn't get elected by the actual hall for decades later. And as we're going to find out in the exercise, right, there are guys that are still not in and well-deserving, but maybe that timing of the relatively late establishment of the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton hurt some of these guys' chance. So it's kind of cool. Revisit and rethink the whole exercise from day one.
Yeah, the only issue when you do this, I try to position myself as if I was in 1946. It's so hard, right? I mean,
yeah.
There's a lot of people, like I know with our friend Jeff, the Schlegel Daddy. So he sent me a message because you can not send me a message. You can add comments if you like, because he was really upset that Labby Dilweg wasn't there. And then you wonder, okay, is that because we've been talking about him so much?
Right.
Because he's not in. It's like the biggest interview I ever got to do was with Pete Rose. And Pete Rose said to me, if I was in the Hall of Fame, I wouldn't, I'm paraphrasing, I don't remember exactly what he said. But if I was in the Hall of Fame now, I wouldn't be as big a name as I am. Which is
that there certainly could be some truth to that. There's an interesting story in itself, but yeah, when you think about it, he would have gotten the initial attention, I would have waved through, but now he, and he's marketed himself a little bit, right? And he's taken that notoriety and he's sort of showing up in Canton and doing autographs and on the autograph circuit and with the media. And he's kind of playing that whole, his view that hasn't been treated well and should be in the hall. And we know there's a lot of pro and con arguments for that, but it's a good point that he's making that's kind of raised his profile even higher because there's this big, he's not in the hall debate, right? Yeah.
That's sort of like why I think it was Jay Jaffe. I know we're going on baseball a bit, but just fresh in my mind here. Jay Jaffe, I think it was Jay Jaffe. I could be mistaken on that. Didn't vote for Kurt Schilling because he just said, "Well, I'm not going to give him any more attention than he deserves."
Yeah.
But that Kurt Schilling he's a bigger name now because now he's a martyr.
Yep.
It's so weird. You want to punish him?
Yeah.
Actually, put him in the hall. That's weird to say, but then there's no more news cycles around him.
And we've seen that a little bit with the pro football, not that kind of level of kind of controversy, notoriety, but we certainly have seen guys who write that were upset and took a long time to get in, and it almost becomes the debate, right, and the back and forth and why the person isn't in kind of overshadows the case. And often, I mean, my mindset sometimes, even with guys that have been on the ballot, like a modern guy for several years, and you see they're so close, just put them in and move the debate right to other candidates who deserve to have their cases heard and the debate shift. Why talk about guys like Lynn Swan, who I think was a finalist, like 15 years, they finally elected him in as a modern. It's stuff like that at a point where, okay, he's that close, like he's in the final 15, the final 10, and you're still not elected. There comes a point, right? The debate is sort of like, we've been over this. And the only debate left is, why isn't he in? Just put him in, and move on.
Yeah, it's as this progresses too, I'm really fascinated to see how this all plays out. There have been a couple people who have sent just really like long diatribes to me, and thank you for that, as like explaining their choices.
I didn't send you one.
Well, I didn't say you, did I?
No, but I wanted the audience to make sure.
Yeah. Well, no, because it's sort of interesting. But now that I've changed the system, because everything's a work in progress. Now I learned how to use a type of Survey Monkey because people said like this is just too hard in this damn Excel sheet. So that I did that. The only problem is I don't actually know who votes for who now because it just comes up as an IP address. But whatever, that's fine. And that's neither here nor there. We're here to talk about something from 1975, the modern era.
Yes.
Super Bowl IX, and we are coming from New Orleans, Louisiana. It was supposed to be the Superdome, but it wasn't built yet. So we're at the last ever pro football game ever in Tulane Stadium. And we've got the Pittsburgh Steelers against the Minnesota Vikings. So let's see how we got here. And before we went on, you and I were talking about the Steelers and just what a sad sack franchise they were. And you and I were similar age, but so like we kind of grew up thinking that the Steelers were gods in a way, or in your case as a Cowboys fan, God damn it. But still, I mean, that's how it was sort of presented to us in folklore. But the reality is they formed in 1933 and they stunk year after year after year after year. Never won an NFL championship. Never even had a playoff game, I think, until 72.
Yeah, and they never had made the NFL championship game in all those years. And then, of course, not a Super Bowl and more losing seasons than winning seasons. But even the winning seasons didn't amount to a shot at a championship. And that all changed very quickly, as we're going to get into this a little bit and how they built this team in the early 70s. But yeah, it's crazy. I mean, people today, right, almost all fans of all ages, right, if you ask them who are sort of the premier historical franchises in the NFL, especially if they think about, continued success, sustained championships, big name players, coaches, the Steelers are in that top tier of
absolutely
4 or 5 teams. Whether you hate them or love them or hate them, you have to acknowledge that. Right. But what people don't realize, and then, granted, it's been 50 years, but they don't always realize that this is one of the earlier, it was one of the first expansion teams into the NFL. The NFL was established in 1920. But people don't realize that 42-year history leading up to this game, and they did nothing. And then you think of what they've done in the years since, right? Over 50 years, and it's like a complete flip of the coin. It's kind of crazy, and people don't realize the background. And when you think in the context of this game, right, what it took to get here after all that history, and why this is such a unique Super Bowl for them to come up. And as we were saying earlier, we are seeing it's cool to look in at a franchise that's just emerging, and we know right, will become a dynasty of that decade and have much success, right, in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s up to today. So it's a little peek into a history lesson for folks when that shift occurred in the franchise to make it one of the most significant historical ones in the entire league.
Mm-hmm. Well, to get here, they beat Buffalo 32-14 and Oakland 24-13. And interesting thing, I tried to find this out, and I just lost patience. Pittsburgh had the Defensive Player of the Year in Joe Green and the Defensive Rookie of the Year in Jack Lambert. I could not see if any other team has ever done this.
Wow. There's none that come right to mind, the top of my head. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would take some bit of digging, comparing down. That's a pretty historic accomplishment, I think.
I gave up digging after 5 minutes. I couldn't find one.
But it is certainly, it would be rare, to have that kind of an accomplishment. And I mean, there's a lot of depth on this team. You're going to hear as we go through the game a lot of familiar names that would be part of a major dynasty.
Supporting the
very beginning of it, right?
Right.
And what's neat, and this was in the 1974 season. They had that historical draft, and you're going to see some names of players.
Oh, yeah, we're going to talk about that draft.
Yeah, who were just drafted that previous year and were contributors. Now, some of them were early and they still had a lot of a career to develop, but the way they built this franchise over years, and then to have what many people feel the 1974 Pittsburgh Steelers draft as one of the greatest in NFL history. And you're going to see some.
I would say the best drafting ever. So much so that this is a shout out to our good friend Vinny Laspinuso. I would even make a Hall of Fame case for whoever was the janitor in their draft room. It's just that good.
Who knows? He could have hey, maybe somebody asked him, right? Like, hey, here we are in such and such a round. Who do you think of this guy or that? And he goes, yeah, you should pick that Webster guy, or you should pick that Jack Lambert. He sounds like a really good guy. Who knows?
It's stranger things have happened.
Yes.
Minnesota, however, a much newer team, came into the league in 61, won an NFL championship. Not technically, they won one, but they lost the Super Bowl. So, yay, you can actually say that you're an NFL champion. But they lost to Kansas City in Super Bowl IV. We didn't cover that. But they were still a really good team. They made the playoffs in 71, 72, but the year before they lost the Super Bowl to Miami, in another one we didn't do. Because they lost handily 24-7. It wasn't that, it didn't feel like an historic season, so we sort of left that one off. I think with the knowledge that we would be looking at Minnesota the year after. But the last time we did this, it was Super Bowl VII with Miami having lost the year before and almost feeling due. Minnesota, even though they're coming in as a 3-point underdog, feels due. Like it's their turn. Sports doesn't always work that way, but sometimes.
Yeah, but it's a natural thing for folks to think through, right? I mean, obviously, if you mentioned, there's some history here. They built a team. They've been successful at a lot of ways, and here they are, getting to their third Super Bowl, right? I think only Miami had been to 3, and of course Miami had lost 1 and won 2 in a row. But here we come in here's Minnesota with the third game, and you got to think here we are. They're kind of a franchise in terms of not a dynasty, but pretty successful, and they would be throughout early and mid 1970s. This is not the first time we're going to see them if we cover all these games going forward. And you think, kind of the mindset we've earned this, right? Like the Cowboys we talked about earlier, lost a Super Bowl, lost NFL championships in the 60s, and then won that big Super Bowl. So you kind of had that same kind of mentality and a lot of talent. It wasn't that they were a fluke by any means. A lot of success and a really well-coached, well-built team. And I think what people might surprise some folks, right, is the matchup here is more even than I think many people would have thought, especially if you just sort of read the final score and read, maybe saw a few highlights and read the summary of the game. Going in, these were very closely matched teams, and it's going to be an interesting Super Bowl to watch.
Oh, Winnie wants to make an appearance here. So this is Winnie the Mini Dashend. Those listening, sometimes Winnie will show up and she'll help out.
Yep.
Right, Winnie? I don't care. But yeah, to get here, Minnesota had to beat the St. Louis Cardinals 30-14 and the Los Angeles Rams 14-10. A little bit of a harder road, but either way, we got two teams very evenly matched, very much all about the defense.
Yeah.
All right, so this is now broadcast by NBC. So yes, I got Kirk Gowdy again. I'm happy. I'm a happy man. With some of the other shows that I do, the one with Glenn Pulowski, we listen to a lot of shitty commentators. Kirk Gowdy is not in that category. But before we even get there, we see the old Peacock logo, and what the hell is this? We're watching a broadcast that you sent that had some commercials. What's the YouTube channel on that? If people want to watch this after, because it was like Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I can't remember off my hand, but if you just Google this game, you will find 2 or 3 different versions of the full game telecast, and so it's cool to go through it.
So our cold open for what we have, it's Fran Tarkenton just doing typical jock speak, blah, 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 wearing a very 70s shirt. And Art Rooney was blathering on about how, now I'm a genius, more or less. Oh, wait a minute. I did actually write this down. Pittsburgh Sports News. So that's the YouTube channel.
Cool.
So we don't see any of the opening ceremonies, which is fine. Minnesota's set to kick off. Fred Cox is the honors, and let's see. It's returned by Preston Pearson. I think it's the only time we're going to be calling his name. 15 yards to the 37. At this point, he's an 8-year vet. This would be his last game with Pittsburgh, and he would later join your team, Dallas, for 6 years. So we're going to meet the Pittsburgh offense. Quarterback Terry Bradshaw, and I did not know this. I guess when you're just growing up and then you hear about, like in the era that we grew up, you just hear that Bradshaw was this legend, and he was. But this was year 5, and he hadn't really established himself all that well. First round pick, didn't win much in the first couple of years. Well, as the supporting cast got better, he did. But this year he lost his starting job briefly to, I forget his name. Damn it. I wrote it. It doesn't matter. But won it back and was booed a lot. Terry Bradshaw would eventually become a very beloved figure, but he was not at this point yet. I think there were a lot of people in Pittsburgh thinking, we're pretty good except for our quarterback, which is
so Joe Gilliam was the other quarterback, and they started the 74 season a little rough, and the two of them were going back and forth in terms of fighting for that starting position. And Gilliam actually started for the first 4 games of the season. But Noel finally, I guess, just move things along, switch things up, and eventually made Bradshaw the starter. And even though his season stats aren't that great, he did lead the team to a 10-3-1 regular season record given the playoffs, and here we are. So.
Here we are. Running back Rocky Blyer, fullback Franco Harris, wide receiver Ron Shanklin, and wide receiver Frank Lewis. We didn't actually hear much of Shanklin. Did he even catch a pass? I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I don't remember.
Tight end Larry Brown, and our offensive line, left tackle Joe Cobb, left guard Jim Clack. I keep wanting to call him Jim Kick because we did so much Dolphin stuff. Center Ray Mansfield, right guard Terry Mullins, and right tackle Gordon Gravel. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. So I wrote. Here's where I sort of did a whole deep dive. I looked at the Steelers' last drafts. And so 1970, they drafted Terry Bradshaw and Mel Blount. 71, Jack Ham. 72, Franco Harris. And the 74 draft that you were talking about before, Lynn Swann, Jack Lambert, Mike Webster, John Stallworth. Holy shit.
Yes. Well, and the thing about this game is, and people are going to pick this up as we go through it, none of those guys really were, I think we hear and see Shell, perhaps. But Swann and Stallworth, you just mentioned the receivers for the Steelers. They were not big name players in this game. They would be. Right. And Jack Lambert actually, I don't want to steal your thunder, but during the game, the Steelers had 2 starting linebackers get injured and had to leave the game, and he was one of them. But yeah, the nucleus is there, and you're beginning to see the emergence of it. But it all didn't happen this first year. But a lot of the key pieces, as you mentioned, it wasn't just that draft, were in place, and they were building and successful in the early 70s in the playoffs, and they finally reached its peak. But yeah, we're getting a little snippet, right, of the very early emergence of the Steelers dynasty of the 70s.
Well, and so we're up against, so here's the Minnesota defense, which is another great lineup.
Yeah.
Left defensive end Carl Eller. I love that guy. Left defensive tackle Doug Sutherland. Right defensive tackle Alan Page. Like, yes, what a great man he is. Like, just a Hall of Famer and a better man off the field.
Yeah.
How
rare combination. You just don't see that in
Yeah.
any pro sports now or even in the past, right? Somebody of that character and caliber and have the respect in profession as a football, but then in life and what else as an individual he's been able to achieve and give back to his fellow citizens and community and society. Yeah, you just don't see guys like that anymore.
Oh, so modern fans think J.J. Watt, only this guy is smarter.
Yeah.
Now, because I'm assuming J.J. Watt's not going to become a lawyer.
Yeah.
And that neither am I.
Judge,
so that's
yeah,
not a
right.
shot at J.J. Watt. I hope.
Oh, but you're raising a good point, right? You are pointing to somebody who's given a lot to a community and been a lot to the franchise and is bigger than the game in their life. They're going to achieve a lot more.
Yeah.
He would be a good one in the current league.
Congressional Medal of Freedom winner or recipient in 2018. Yeah, it was Donald Trump, but okay. Please tell me Trump, like if you hate Trump, like why Alan Page doesn't deserve it. You can't. So
yeah,
we'll move on from there. I don't want to get political because I don't. Right defensive end Jim Marshall, which is a lot to talk about with him. Left linebacker Ray Winston, middle linebacker Jeff Seaman, who had a really good game. Right linebacker Wally Hilgenberg, and our corners are Nate Wright and Jackie Wallace. Wallace had another phenomenal game. And our safeties, strong safety Jeff Wright, and free safety Paul Krause. Again, like these are great names. And Minnesota had a great rookie too, who we'll talk about a little bit later with Matt Blair, who wasn't a starter, and he's gonna show up here. Blair might not have been a Hall of Famer, but he's on the list that I've got him on, not in Hall of Fame, in the top 300 people to think about. So. And Pittsburgh's got some of those names too. I mean, like, my God, just the names here.
We'll be able to do a lot of name dropping, as one says, with this game. Other thing people might want to just, in context, before we get rolling with the play-by-play, is the weather was terrible.
Oh yeah,
it had rained.
Yeah, thank you for that.
It had rained all night and into the morning, an open stadium, and of course, drainage of the field, preparation of the field it's an artificial turf, but we're not really dealing with that kind of. With the league, although this Super Bowl, they really messed that up. But that's another story. But this was the last Super Bowl to be played in inclement weather for about 30 years until we had that terrible game on Miami with the rain. Mm-hmm. That was the Peyton Manning Colts game. And in this case, the game still holds the mark as the second coldest outdoor temperature.
Yeah. And we're in New Orleans.
8 degrees Celsius, 46 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah. And it was, wet, slippery. It was not great conditions. And I think it highlights what you mentioned before. I mean, this game should never, this is the third Super Bowl played at this stadium. It's a big stadium in the South, so that's kind of the thinking behind it. Mm-hmm. But, it was not really supposed to be the venue, right? Yeah. In fact, this was the last professional game played in this stadium. It was used a little bit, but not for the NFL, or at least not for Super Bowl. It was demolished 5 years later and replaced in 1975 by the Superdome. And so we're kind of getting a look at, venues that maybe weren't ideal for a championship game, neutral site. And you're going to see throughout this play-by-play that it comes to be a factor.
Yeah, with the wet, slick ball, because we're seeing some things happen that from sure-handed people that probably don't normally happen, and just a lot of slips here and there.
Yep.
But yeah, no, I had that written later, so I'm sort of glad you brought that up now. I should have brought that up earlier. Pittsburgh's got the ball on their own 10, and we're going to see a pattern for the first three quarters in terms of Chuck Noll's play calling. It's going to be Blyer Harris, almost at the start of everything. Blyer gets the first play from scrimmage, and he gets 3. Harris doesn't get anything on the second play. He was the offensive rookie of the year 2 years ago. He got 1,006 rushing yards this year. So on 2nd and 7, Bradshaw drops back with Minnesota blitzing, and we got our first sack. Winston gets a sack, but and what do I have here? But it was Page who set that all up. He bowled over his opponents, and he was the one who knocked over Bradshaw off balance. And so 3 and out. So great start for Minnesota. Bobby Walden, who had a 14-year career and would be a member of all 4 Super Bowl wins, has a great punt by the standards of this era.
Yeah, I mean, a 52-yard punt, Kirk. We've been trashing special teams and punters on this series so far with these Super Bowl games and pointing out all the deficiencies and problems. And then this guy hits a 52-yard punt in what I'm sure, again, was slippery, kind of ball handling, slippery turf. And we need to give him some credit. We need to give credit where credit's due in this case, because he hit a boomer. Yeah.
I was at a little function last night because the building where I live in, they had a little thing party. So yeah, I'm going to be talking about another Super Bowl because I got to know some people who know what I do with this. And someone asked me what's been one of the more interesting things is watching the evolution of people actually kicking. It seems so simple, but
yeah,
it wasn't. Oh wait, that wasn't last night. That was actually this morning with the security guards. Yeah, so I was talking to him about. It doesn't matter. Nobody cares who I had that conversation with. I don't know why I felt the need to share that with people.
Right.
I share too much. Let's meet the Minnesota offense. We got quarterback Fran Tarkenton, and I got to tell you something. You're going to laugh at this. So when I was a kid, right, first time I ever knew who Fran Tarkenton was when he was the host of a TV show called That's Incredible.
Yes. Yep. I remember that.
Yeah, but I didn't know that he was a football player. So I would have been 8, and you grew up in Canada, and moved to the U.S. much later. So actually, I should have asked you: are you a dual citizen?
No, actually, my wife and I remain Canadian citizens. Although for anybody watching, I am a legal permanent resident of the United States. I do carry a green card. So
we're worried about INS coming to immigration. Okay. I wasn't trying to get you arrested or anything like that.
No, in fact, I was just in the homeland in Canada 2 days ago visiting some high school buddies, so that was kind of fun.
Do you consider yourself more American, though? Because you've lived in the U.S. far more than Canada, right?
Well, yeah, I've lived here for 23 years, which actually, if you do the math, is the longest place I've lived in one continuous period of my life, even when I grew up in Canada. So it is kind of unique, but no, I think I still identify as being Canadian. I'm proud of it. I don't boast about it, but people ask me where I'm from, and on July 1st, I put my Canadian flag up at my house outdoors, and then 2 days later, I'm very quick to take it down and put the American flag up for the 4th of July, so my neighbors don't think that throw tomatoes on my house or anything. But it's kind of neat being a dual citizen and kind of see both countries, and it's kind of neat.
Well, because so I guess I don't know why I sort of went there, because I asked my wife that not that long ago, because she is an immigrant from Indonesia, and now she's been in Canada more, and she's a citizen. So I asked her, what do you think of yourself as? And
yeah,
in her case, it's more Canada, so thought I'd ask that. But yeah, Tarkenton, when I was a kid, I thought, that's a goofy show. That's incredible, but
yeah,
kind of a foreshadow of almost reality TV.
Mm-hmm.
They do a lot of stunt stuff with that, but I did not know that he's a football player because he doesn't look like one to me. Still doesn't.
Yeah, you're right.
When I look back, but arguably, he's the biggest name star coming into this game. In 74 or in 75, right? He's the biggest.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. I mean, the Steelers we talked about and that would become famous, and some of them to this day continue, to be thought of as the best, at their position in NFL history. A guy like Mean Joe Green, for example, is still in that debate about Mount Rushmore for defensive tackles.
But
they hadn't gotten to that point yet.
It's Tarkenton.
Yeah.
I think now, looking back, he's probably number 3 behind Green and Bradshaw. Maybe, behind Harris, too, in terms of, I guess, just recognition rating in terms of name recognition and whatnot. But either way, he's the biggest name coming here. Yep. His running back Dave Osborne and fullback Chuck Foreman, who, depending on your point of view, had a good game or a shitty game. I don't think it was necessarily his fault, but we'll go into that more later.
Yeah.
The wide receivers are John Gilliam and Jim Lash. Stu Voigt is your tight end. And your line is left tackle Charles Goodrum, left guard Andy Marr, center Mick Tinglehoff, right guard Ed White, right tackle Ron Yeri. Our defense, oh man. Left defensive end Elsie Greenwood, who is somebody who I pound the pavement a lot for the Hall of Fame. Not in consideration this year, but that's neither here nor there. The aforementioned left defensive tackle Joe Green, right defensive tackle Ernie Holmes, right defensive end Dwight White. That's your front four. That is your steel curtain.
And at this stage in the dynasty of the Steelers, they are the unit. I mean, and you see this throughout the game. I think the linebackers and the defensive safety in the defense was still pretty good, as you're going to outline for us. But the heart and the ability to control a game as a defensive team, which is really what this team was throughout the season, is just the guys you just mentioned.
Yeah, and those are really the MVPs here, in my opinion, of this game. Linebackers at left, Jack Ham. Middle is Jack Lambert. Right is Andy Russell. We'll talk about him a little bit more. Our corners are JT Thomas and Mel Blount. And strong safety, Mike Wagner. And free safety, Glenn Edwards. And I just wrote down afterwards after writing all that down. Holy shit.
Yes. They're not all there yet. There's more to come in a few years. But yeah, the building blocks are there. And yeah, that's an incredible defense and you know, we've talked about this for the last couple of shows, right? This is the era where you build a defense to stop the run. You build an offense largely built on running the ball with the occasional pass, and it's a chess match, right? Between the coaching, the game planning, the in-game strategy, the talent, matchups, right? It's running offenses against defenses designed to stop the run, and you're gonna see that all game long here.
Yeah. Well, on first down, Tarkenton scrambles to his right immediately. That's why we call him a scrambler, because he did that a lot. He loved rolling right, and we're gonna see that a lot in this game. And he finds his number one weapon on wideout, Gilliam, 16-yard completion. Here's your great start, first down right away. Gilliam, he was on his third of four straight Pro Bowls and had over 7,000 yards over his career. So, really good player that doesn't get enough love, I think.
Yeah, and when you read some of the kind of pregame and kind of background on this game, I don't know if scared is the right word, but the Steelers really knew, as much as they had to stop the run, which I think they were prepared, right? They had the players and the strategy ability to do that. I think their probably number one worry or concern was Gilliam, because a guy with a lot of speed and could exploit defenses, and not talking to, in that era, you didn't need a guy to catch 10 passes and 3 touchdowns. You need a guy like that. A couple big plays could swing a game.
Yeah, and that's one of the other big differences that we sort of notice. Like nowadays, you'll watch a game. I don't know if we'll ever get to that wonderful game between the Vikings and the Bills in the regular season, which might have been one of the most exciting games I ever watched. That does not happen in this era. And if it does, it happens maybe one great play. That's it. And even then, you're not going to see one of those Odell Beckham 3-finger things or what Justin Jefferson did in that game that I was talking about. But
it's worth us making sure folks realize it was a run dominated league
for sure.
Run the ball, stop the run, but you needed teams that were successful would have a threat at the passing. And like you say, you're not going to see it a lot during a game, but it could swing. A big catch at the right time could swing a game, or a catch that wasn't made, or a penalty associated with that play, or whatever. The threat still needed to be there, and the Vikings had a very good one at wide out.
Well, and also quarterbacks are allowed to do so much more. I mean, like that. I guess that probably should have been my answer when I was asked that. But for me, just like those first couple of games, like, how are you not following through on your leg?
Yeah,
that was the first thing I learned when I was trying to get my shots through as a soccer player. Not that I was any good. That's a shock to everyone listening how unathletic I am, and this is what I do now. Anywho, Minnesota's 1st and 10 on their own 34. Enough self-deprecation. I'm really good at that. Incomplete to Voigt up the middle. Wasn't even close. 2nd and 10, Osborne only rushes for 1. On 3rd and 9, Tarkenton's incomplete and they flushed that out. Minnesota's got a punt, and it's Mike Eichheit. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. He's an 8-year vet, and this is going to be his last NFL game. And we have another good punter in this game, and it's Lynn Swann. Here he is. He's a returner here. Much like one thing hasn't changed. Usually highly touted rookie wide receivers or safeties, cornerbacks usually cut their teeth as a returner. This year he was really good in punt returning. He led the league with 577 punt return yards. And he had a nice return, got Pittsburgh to their own 40. And then, wait, commercials? I got some commercials. I want to talk about the commercials. RCA pitches us about a great color TV, and there's a great deal on it. And
wow.
It's a whopping 25 inches.
Holy mackerel.
Oh, like, wow. That's amazing.
How much was it, Kurt? Did they tell you?
Maybe, and I didn't write it down.
They probably didn't.
They probably didn't, no. There's only the one commercial. Because whoever did this, I think, cut out some stuff, but whatever. It was still fun.
It is kind of cool.
It was. And like, I'm saying that to my wife last night, and she's just looking at me stupid, like, I had so much fun rewatching this old game, and there was all these other stuff, and then I saw a commercial for a TV, and she's looking at me like, I married an idiot. She's right. She did marry an idiot, but 20 years
hours of watching that game, and that's what he took away from it.
But I had to put it in things that she could understand, right? Because like she'll watch the Super Bowl with me, but for her, it's like, we're gonna watch Rihanna.
Yeah, the halftime.
You know, it's. I love her to pieces, and honey, if you're watching, I love you. Watching sports with you sometimes just makes me want to go, God damn it, I need some men around me. Or women who watch this stuff. I don't want to be sexist here. I'm in a fantasy football league that is 40% female, believe it or not. How does that work out? It just, not only is it, and they're the ones who run the whole thing, and they always beat me. But anyway, and I always keep going back. Anyway, Harris gets the ball, rushes for 4, and the next play does not go well. It's a weird formation. The commentators don't really know what's going on, but they're loading the right side and basically tipping off that they're going to go on the right side. And it's a 3-yard loss, but there's a clipping penalty, but we don't really see the clip, which is frustrating. I mean, that's another big difference. Now we're going to see that angle, like in every conceivable way, but we talked about this last time with the previous Super Bowl, right? They just they mention the penalty and they move right on. There's no retrospective, there's no going back and look at it, there's no debate in the booth about the call, and sometimes you just never know. I mean, you hear a call, but you don't have any. It wasn't obvious when you first saw the play live run. The commentators
they just move on. They accept that what happened. Let's just move on. Nowadays,
they don't have the They didn't have the technology then. There was some good production moments that I'll talk about later. One that isn't in a way that when we saw the greens, I'll mention now on halftime when they showed the green screen, yours is better than theirs. I'm not even joking. It really.
I know I was early technology for that stuff, and it looked a little weird.
With 2023 eyes and 1975 eyes, you just believe, they're right there. Gowdy mentions how Jim Marshall is a medical marvel at 36, and he had pneumonia for 6 weeks and still played. Marshall would play another 5 years. And a graphic comes up how he never missed a start for Minnesota. He did actually miss 4 starts. He didn't start 4 games for Cleveland, but I forgot that he was actually there. Actually, I didn't even know that he was there. I had to look that up. And he never missed another game there. 270 starts in 270 games for Minnesota. Unofficially, he's got 130.5 sacks. I think when Pro Football Reference sort of made all their calculations 2 years ago.
Yeah, we did everything and went back and looked at tape and corrected to make sure that guys were all getting the right credit, and kind of did their own kind of revised, updated list of career sacks.
I think this could help Marshall the most in terms of a Hall of Fame. Sorry, Paul and I, we think Hall of Fame. So almost everything, when we look at that, it's maybe too much so. I don't know, but Oh, it's never too much. Second and 21 on their own 44. Bradshaw completes a flare to Lewis, who gets 12. So we've got a manageable third down, but it's Alan Page. He sacks Bradshaw for an 8-yard loss. In real time, it look like Jim Page was untouched. That wasn't the case. On the replay, we see that he head slaps Jim Clack. He head slapped him so hard that he changed his name to Jim Kick. And then it was an unevaded run. It was just beautiful to watch that. The Steelers punt, and Wright, who was the returner, he looked like a deer in headlights, I wrote down. He was just panicking. He stood there confused while he got swarmed and only got 1 yard. Like, I don't know what happened there. He just didn't know, do I run here? Do I juke? He was, I think he was scared. I would be. I'm not a pro football player, but yeah, it was there. The tackle was special teamer Donnie Shell, who was undrafted in that year.
Yes.
So add to those four, and you pick Donnie Shell. That makes 5 Hall of Famers. So yes. I say to you as a Cowboys fan, Paul, hopefully in this draft, you've got 5 Hall of Famers and who are all going to stay on your team for the rest of the decade. You are taking your wife out for the fanciest steak dinner. You are celebrating. You're going out for beer with we're celebrating, right? Say that with me as a Saints fan, except for that year where Ditka traded the entire. Sorry, I'm still on that. But yes, I'm just blown away.
It's an incredible thing, and again, the context and the thing about this at the time, nobody knew that, right? I mean, I think, two things, right? Is, of course, in this era, right, we do post-draft grading and evaluation, whatever. That wasn't going on. But even if they did, I mean, you really don't know the potential. You think, look at a draft value, where guys were slotted, where they would fit. Maybe in that sense, I'm sure the team thought this is a pretty good, group of players, but nobody would know. I mean, it wasn't that it took 2 or 3 years. It would take several years, right, as this dynasty evolved, to really begin to see how important and significant that draft was, and that the quality of the players that would come out of that and be a foundation. As we mentioned, they were all drafted in the draft going into this Super Bowl, and they played minor roles in this game. But it's neat to see them all there at this stage and think and know what's going to come for the team and for the players.
And they're learning culture and how to win and how to build on that. We get a couple commercials. Someone's skiing, so it's about beer. Okay, well, it's better than what Bud Light did, so we'll run with that. So when he's done, they're all partying and having Miller. Okay. And then experience the movie Earthquake in Sense-Around? What the hell is that? So
that's the 70s right there.
The 70s had a lot of disaster films. And this was one, Charlton Heston, who had that Second Life career, just doing everything sci-fi and everything. If you needed how do I put this? If you needed I guess you're Liam Neeson, although Heston was a lot younger than Neeson is now. Just Liam Neeson's a senior citizen, and you still don't want to pick a fight with him. I don't care. So, but what's Sense-Around? Like, did somebody just come behind you? Okay, there's an earthquake scene, and they're just like a large guy's coming behind you and shaking the seat. Like, what the hell is this?
That's a world of a deeper dive for another day, maybe, to figure out what was the gimmick.
I'm not going any deeper. I was just like wondering, what the hell is this? We also learned that the Smothers Brothers show will be debuting, and they're going to welcome George Burns, Johnny Carson, Red Fox, and Alice Cooper.
Wow.
That's a big lineup.
Who came up with that lineup? You were doing very good till you got to the last name. It's like,
what's wrong with Alice Cooper? 1975?
No, I meant in that group. Nothing wrong with him, but just think of the company he's keeping.
Alice Cooper is a staunch conservative who loves golf, and he bonded with Andy Williams over golf.
Yeah.
And he also met my dog Jasper at the Fairmont, and he said, "Oh, hello, nice pup," and then he walked away.
Well, and personas, right, don't always match the person in real life.
Yeah, I mean, not that I'm bashing conservatives. I'm not. It's just he doesn't, like Paul just said, it doesn't necessarily fit. I did check. That show only lasted 13 episodes. So that version of it, because I thought, wasn't the Smothers Brothers in the late 60s as counterculture? But they kept trying to revive it, and it didn't work. Anywho, Minnesota's on their own 14. I don't know why I went so much on the Smothers Brothers. I got a kick out of that. I love pop culture, Paul.
Yeah, it's funny. It is funny.
Yeah. Tarkinen gives to Foreman, who's tackled for a loss. And this is going to be the theme. Foreman did not have a good game on the ground, and I don't blame him one bit.
No.
I don't know any running back who could have done any better with what we watched. Like, what do you think?
No, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, if you step back for a moment, you think about, okay, you got the conditions, which are not ideal, right? It's slippery. You're trying to keep your footing, and of course, you're trying to hold on to the ball in difficult conditions. So that's on your mind, and you need to be aware of it. And then you're looking at a defense which is built to stop the run, and the first barrier you're going to have to get through is that incredible front four. And a team had been doing this successfully, stopping the run, built on this premise as a defense all season long. And then if you look at the Vikings, if they don't establish the running game, right, what are they going to do? I mean, so everything's sort of built up, like we've got to be able to run the ball. And so the challenge is very huge for them to be successful. They're going to need a couple of lucky breaks, whether it's a slip or a turnover or a broken run or Gillum gets loose in the secondary in the pass. But they're tightly matched. But this matchup, right, the running game against the Steelers front four is a really tough one for the Vikings to, I think, even going in to try to game plan for it and strategize and play call for it and then adapt during the game is a tough haul for them.
Oh, absolutely. And no disrespect to the Minnesota Vikings offensive line.
None whatsoever, and not any directed at Chuck Foreman. He's just one piece and not trying to make that work. And he's got a lot on his shoulders to do that. And it's a tough position to be in this game in the context. And you're going to see that, as you mentioned, throughout the game. Yeah.
But I think the biggest name they had there was Tingelhoff. And again, a very good player, but we're just not at the level here. Pass to Osborne, who's tackled immediately by Hammond Lambert. So we've got 3rd and 10. Tarkinen drops back, and it's batted down by LC Greenwood. So we got another 3 and out. Minnesota punts, and it's a pretty good bounce, but we have another clipping penalty that we don't even see. The color commentator, I never pronounce his name right, Al DeGrotis?
Sounds about right, yeah.
Pretty much asks openly, how is there a clip when you're kicking? Well, we don't know, and he doesn't know because there's no replay. Yeah. So, I mean, kudos on him for just saying, look, what the hell? And I don't know what's going on. I'm okay when somebody says, I don't know, rather than try to make shit up.
Yeah.
Like, because then 2 out of 3 times, you're going to sound like a fool because you're going to get it wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Actually, I thought DeGrotis was fantastic in this game. A lot in terms of color. Also, too, I should mention that Don Meredith would pop in here and there.
That's right. We have an appearance by Dandy Don.
Yeah, I'll get to him a little bit later because I wrote down one time, I don't know what the hell he was saying, but I don't speak Texas at all.
Yeah.
I try, but I just don't. Either way, so we got a penalty. Ike now has to punt from his own end zone, and he's able to sort of get that off. But as it's happening, Edwards, the returner, he's slipping, and as he's slipping, he is pounded by Matt Blair. So I don't know if him slipping saved his ribs. I don't know, because just he was slipping as he was, and then he got just pounded, right? He was going to get hit no matter what, but maybe it just sort of lessened it. It looked brutal in real time, but maybe that slip actually sort of helped him out. I don't know.
Sure. Yeah. No.
I don't know the laws of physics, guys. I still don't understand how Wile E. Coyote could not figure out a bunch of other, but that's another story. Pittsburgh's 1st and 10 on their own 44. Bradshaw gets it to Frank Lewis, but he couldn't hang on to the ball, which is unfortunate. That would have been a really good pass and good completion, probably for 20 yards. 2nd and 10, Harris on a draw only gets 2. And 3rd and 8, it's complete to Brown on the 25. So we've got 1st and 10 now on the Minnesota 25. So this looks pretty good. Now we've got our pattern. Rocky gets the ball for 4, Franco for 2. 3rd and 4, Bradshaw overthrows his target. It's a slant pass to Lewis. So we've got a 37-yard field goal attempt by Roy Girella, who was a Pro Bowler this year. It goes wide left. So Pittsburgh loses an opportunity there. It's funny now. 37. Why do I keep saying 37-year? 37-yard field goal. We think now.
Yeah.
I don't want to say automatic, but we're probably thinking when I see a kicker do that, who's competent, I'm usually thinking I got a 90% shot, maybe higher. You like same?
Yeah, I think in this era, that's the percentage of field goals made, especially under 40, is just phenomenal and pretty consistent. I mean, you get a few flukes here and there, especially, if conditions are ideal on the snap and the hold is fine, then you would expect a high percentage. And, we've talked about this in a couple of previous Super Bowls about the kicking and inaccuracy of it, some of the challenges. I think maybe we're kind of reaching a bit of a bridge where we're starting to see a little bit better performance, but it's just the consistency still isn't there for whatever reason. And
can't wait till we get to Ray Guy, huh?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm actually serious.
Some other punters. It's just the lack of consistency, and I think a lot of the coaching and play strategy and special teams as a whole was getting better gradually, but the talent level, the technique, the coaching, the preparation, we haven't really, we haven't seen the fruits kind of born of that yet. I think with this game and the next few we're going to do, we're gradually going to see more of that, be a little bit better. Maybe not the standards we would see today's game,
but we're getting there.
Yeah, we're getting there, and probably to a point in the next few games we just won't mention it as much because it won't be so blaringly obvious, like what's wrong with the kicking game.
Exactly. So it's commercial time, and it's Goodyear for your. I wrote down Goodyear for your disgusting station wagons. And here's something I have a question for. Hey, automakers in the 70s, why the hell would you have wood paneling? Why do you want to make your car look like wood?
So, Kirk, my dad owned one of those cars. Yep. I actually bought it, I think, I want to say probably like in the late 70s or early 80s. So, yeah, for about a decade or so, we did have a late 70s, early 80s station wagon with the paneling. It was like, or the paint was red, the paneling was kind of that fall wood kind of appearance to it. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
I never understood that even as a kid. Like, why is your aesthetic to make this look like wood?
I don't know. I think they were probably trying to recapture some of that vibe of the 50s, and you look at some of the old panel.
Cars were ever made of wood?
I know, but the appearance of it, yeah. And I don't know. We hear enough about it.
Or funny, huh?
Well, and we hear about enough about it, and we probably as kids, some of us will remember that obviously the marketing worked. I mean, they sold these things.
Well, I mean, look at the 70s fashion. I'm not equipped to sort of talk about.
And I frankly never had the nerve for years, never even thought of the nerve to ask my dad. I knew I could see why you might want to have a station wagon. 3 kids, we would travel.
Practical, sure, just the wood thing.
But I don't know why he ended up. My dad's long gone now. I don't want to disparage him, but maybe he just got a really good deal and he bought it because it was a cheap car, which is fair enough. And he maybe my sense of the cars my dad owned, I think it was more like, is it serviceable and can I drive it and is it cheap? And that may be how we ended up with that wood panel station wagon.
Do you have brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I have an older brother and a younger sister, and we used to do a lot of summer
so
travel.
There you go, five of you in the car. That's
and we would take. We would go camping, and my dad liked to fish, and so we'd go to a cabin or a lake, and camping. And that was kind of when we were that age. So we did a fair amount of kind of family. That was our family vacation. So yeah, you needed a station wagon if you're going to go camping for a week, and there's 5 people.
Well, station wagons, like I said, make sense to me. It's just the wood. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't know. I never got an answer to that one. Sorry about that, but I don't know. My guess is it was cheap.
Well, I'll move on. Minnesota's got 1st and 10 on their own 20, and here we got our pattern coming up here. Foreman rushes for only a yard. It was Andy Russell who got the tackle, and Gowdy calls him the elder statesman of the Steelers, which is true. A graphic comes up that he was the defensive captain since 1967. So I would imagine, much like I'm going to go to basketball here for a second, when Jokic took Denver to a championship, it just seems like he's the most selfless guy in, I don't know about ever, but I think he's legitimately happier for the veterans on that team to win a ring more than himself. And I wonder if there's a lot of Steelers who were probably, after this result, might have been happiest for Andy Russell. As a fan, I would have been.
Yeah, so he'd been there since 1963. So probably one of the longer serving, kind of went through the transition when Chuck Noll was hired and they began to build this team, as you outlined earlier, in the late 60s and early 70s. But here's a guy who made multiple Pro Bowls at a time when Pro Bowls were voted on by your peers. Let's remember that. Right. And in 72, I see here he made the second team Associated Press All-Pro team. That's, it shows you a very solid, experienced player, and probably a guy, when you look back at this era, now he would play a few more years for Pittsburgh, but not the entire dynasty. It's sort of been forgotten, but in the context of this game, certainly he would have been a key veteran player on that defense.
And we'll see later how they kind of built him as kind of the bigger name, but I guess we'll get there. Yeah. Tarkenton gets rushed immediately on the second down, lucky to get it away, but Minnesota gets a motion penalty. So it's 3rd and 9, and it's a deep sideline pass for Gillum, but he catches it out of bounds. So we have another punt. After that, it's Pittsburgh, 1st and 10 on their own 48. I love this. They mentioned next week, for the first time on national television, the Chicago Blackhawks are hosting the California Seals.
Yeah. Wow. They actually mentioned that on the Super Bowl. That's crazy.
I don't really know NBC's history. Well, I know they have it now, but I'll give them props here. They do a phenomenal job on Hockey Now. They did not earlier, but I'm just thinking the California Seals, who were always crap.
Yeah, I'm just amazed at a game. I was just checking the Nielsen ratings. It was a 42.4 rating, estimated 56 million viewers, and I suspect almost every one of them were golden. The golden, the what?
Yes, exactly.
First of all, there's a group that are going to be like, what's hockey? There's going to be a group that's like, what's the NHL? And then there's going to be a whole bunch of people who were like, the who? The gold? What? Seals?
Yeah, because they probably have heard of the Blackhawks, but not the Seals.
Yeah.
I did not check to see what the Nielsen rating for that game was. It probably was not very good. I wonder if that was the first and only time they were ever on national television. That's probably true, because what happened? They moved to Cleveland, I believe, became the Barons, and then would merge with the North Stars.
Kind of wacky, crazy history.
Oh, yeah.
Just amazing to think of that was highlighted in a commercial on the Super Bowl.
Oh, I loved it. I loved everything about that. Blair gets a 4-yard rush, and he mentions Blair's service in Vietnam and how Staubach was a veteran. And they talk about the late Buffalo Bill, Bob Kalsu, who lost his life. So, yeah, because the Vietnam War was still going on. It ended in 75, and this is January, so.
The social context at the time, right, and protests against the war and the politics, and a challenging time to even, kudos that they talked about it, right, and raised and discussed an issue which was still pretty divisive and controversial at the time. That war would be and would be for many, many years, and the veterans never
they did so without taking a side. I mean, you're just acknowledging a loss.
Yeah.
It's hard to do that, period, but I think they did that about as good as you can.
Yeah, good for them.
Shanklin gets a reverse for no gain, but Minnesota's penalized for offside. We didn't see that one, unfortunately, like who it was. So we have 2nd and 1, and Franco Harris gets his first long rush. It's 14 yards, and so it's Pittsburgh 1st and 10 on the Minnesota 29. Bradshaw himself gets a nice run. I was surprised how good of a rusher he was. So he gets a nice rush for himself on a bootleg, a design play for 11, and they're in the red zone. We didn't call it that, but it was the red zone. It's 18 on the 18. Actually, I guess with the kicking the way it was, I guess the red zone would have been the 10.
Yeah.
Harris rushes for no gain. He's stuffed immediately. And Gowdy mentions how Bradshaw was pissed off coming into this game, basically accused for being dumb. And I guess a lot of that just because he was a Southern boy.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, he would carry that label for much of his career. But, as he got more successful, and as we're going to say in our future coverages of the Super Bowls that came later with this dynasty, his role and his significance and his play as a quarterback got so elevated, so much better that kind of labeling faded away in many respects. But he did carry it with him for a long part of his career, and you still hear people kind of throw that out sometimes. But by the end of his career, I think, and going in the Hall of Fame, he was seen as a lot different kind of player than he was at this time.
Oh, I wrote down here to mention my wife's story here. So I watched a chick flick with her a few years ago called Failure to Launch.
Yeah.
So Terry Bradshaw was in this, and I didn't know what was in it because I hate this stuff. I just sometimes twice a month, you just got to watch this stupid shit. It's like, holy shit, honey, it's Terry Bradshaw. And this movie was Matthew McConaughey and Sarah Jessica Parker, and she looks at me like I'm the biggest moron. She says, "No, that's Carrie Bradshaw from Sex and the City." I thought you'd like that.
You were close.
And I said, then I wasted like 4 minutes trying to explain who Terry Bradshaw, and then it just looks at me like, just shut up. I'm trying to watch this film. Like I said, you know how it's going to end. They're going to be together.
Yeah.
Women and their chick flicks. I don't know. So predictable. But she said, football games are all the same. No, they're not. How dare you say
that? This one wasn't.
How dare you say that? Franco rushes for a hard 2 yards. He did everything he had to get that. On 3rd and 8, Bradshaw goes for Lewis in the corner of the 1, but it was deflected before that. So we have a 33-year-old. Why do I keep doing that? 33-yard field goal attempt. But this play was just a complete mess. I wrote down this play is an abortion. I don't know if abortions are still legal in Louisiana, but apparently they are. No? Okay, I shouldn't have done that joke. The snapper, the snapper just botched it completely.
Yeah.
And panicked, not like Garo Yepremian. So at least he knew not to throw it away. He just slipped, kept the ball. Thankfully, he did that. That could have been much worse. But now we've had two field goals. Pittsburgh should be up 6-0. It's still tied. So if you're Minnesota fans, you're thinking, if things are going to go this bad, at least we're seeing double goose eggs.
Yeah.
So right now, the luck, if you want to go with the whole luck, and we're going to see a lot of bad luck go for Minnesota later, but the luck factor is now all with Minnesota. So Minnesota's got 1st and 10 on their own 27. Osborne rushes for nothing, and we got the end of the quarter, nothing. We'll get a commercial for a Big Mac. At least I know what this is. I'll say something that hasn't changed. It still doesn't look like that.
But you could probably buy it for 59 cents or something.
True. I wish I think I bought a Big Mac for the first time, and I don't know how long. It was falling all over the place, and it never looks like the picture. And why do I keep doing this? And then we have a PSA from Fran Tarkenton. He's wearing the same goddamn shirt he was wearing in the first bit. Hi, I'm Fran Tarkenton, and I think you should all conserve energy. So turn down your thermostat, drive under 50, and look for always new ways to save gas. So shit. I knew there was an oil crisis. But
no, we're right in the middle of it, right? This time period, 73, 74-ish. Yeah. Long lines at gas stations, rationing to some extent, prices went up, and I don't know, I might have the timing wrong, but of course,
We're at
nothing we did as a
79.
society when it
Yeah.
came to heating our homes or driving our cars prior to this, none of it had anything to do with energy efficiency. But so I think this is probably one of the first times in kind of American society, you want to think that or that the idea, well, besides World War II, when you're rationing because it's just not available because it's being used for other military
Yeah, yeah.
purposes, but to where people are actually talking about, well, yeah, you need to be you need to be thinking about energy conservation
Well, they're
and
still
what
thinking
you
that.
could do at your home and your car and whatnot to reduce having to pay high prices for fuel oil and gasoline. I think this is probably because of the oil crisis at the time that was the first time we kind of heard that messaging out to the public.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, World War II, yeah, there was widespread rationing, everything, different kind of context. But in this case, people thinking about
Yeah.
educating the public, right, about you don't want to pay so much for your fuel oil for your home or your gas.
I think
Use
there was
less
more
of
to it, though, Paul. I think they were thinking that because I was looking more into it, like they've been thinking that the oil was going to run out, and
yeah,
here we
yep,
are, 2023.
yeah.
That not only is that not happening, the protesters against that sort of thing are trying to get them to not actually look at all these things that keep getting found over and over.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not going to go a whole political thing, but I found this one so fascinating. Like, what the hell is this? Nothing's changed. But I just imagine a bunch of happy Republicans would be love to sort of like point this out. But again, I'm a neutral guy. I don't hate anybody. Unless you're extremist, then I hate you.
But it's an interesting PSA, right? I mean,
Oh my
of
God,
all the issues
yes.
you might want to highlight, and of course this was a big issue at the time, and then it kind of goes back to your earlier comment. Who's the biggest name in this game?
Grant Tarkenton.
Yeah, we
Well,
wouldn't think that today, but we touched
yeah,
upon this earlier, right?
he's
He's
the
the
guy.
big
Yeah.
name. He's the name that if you're an average football fan or maybe someone who's not a fan but you watch the game, he's the guy you're going to know in this whole roster, including the Pittsburgh Steelers.
At
You're
this
not you're
point,
going to know
yes.
Fran Tarkenton.
At this point, yes. Uh, had it been me, I would have had Joe Green do it. Conserve your oil, or I'm going to beat the shit out of you, and that's going to work. Especially, but I think I also wrote down. Yeah, I'm sure Fran really worried about that when he got that private plane back to Minnesota or wherever the hell. But anywho, yeah, they also had their bit. Please don't be fuelish.
Wow.
Love it. I wrote down, what did I just see? Anyway, Tarkenton rolls to his right on the first play of the second quarter and throws to Foreman for 12. Foreman, who will not have a good rushing game, did have a good receiving game. And a stat comes up that Foreman was the sixth leading receiver in the NFC. And I checked. So he had 53 receptions for 586 yards, which is good for any running back in any era. I would be thrilled with that. Well, I got Kamara, so I expect a little more from him. Right, Winnie? Yeah, Winnie agrees.
Well, if you look at the 70s, if you just go back and look at the decade and you look at the league leading receive in terms of number of receptions in the league each season, and you go through the entire decade, you will find running backs leading that stat more often than wide receivers. The tight ends are still emerging. And so the dual threat, as we kind of call it today, and you mentioned one of the most premier players in the league for that.
My guy.
That was going on with the running backs in this era. I mean, it would not become kind of the dominant thing it is today, but you're starting to see more and more of these running backs that could be very successful at running the hard yards inside, outside the tackles, but also a true threat, at least for swing passes and short go-to passes and outlet passes. And Foreman in the 70s was one of these guys who perfected that kind of dual role, if you want to call it that. Yep.
Yeah, a third in MVP voting this year. So
yes,
Minnesota's got first and 10 on their 35. Tarkenton pretty much does the same play again, but the ball's tipped and incomplete. Second and 10 goes to Osborne, and as soon as he gets the handoff, he is crushed by Ernie Holmes. They talk about how Holmes is the most underrated lineman in the league, and he's got a nickname of Arrow, which is why he has an arrow haircut. I had to look this up. He did.
That's different.
He shaved his hair into like an arrow.
Yeah.
And for that time period,
That's
was very avant-garde, let's say. That was
Yes.
not done.
Yes.
I didn't believe it. Anyway, 3rd and 11, and just we see Tarkenton. I wrote down Tarkenton's his scrambling is amazing. There was nobody like him at this point in time. It looks like he is panicking every play, but he's not. He does.
I mean, I think it would be safe to say. I mean, the other guy who would emerge with that kind of skill set in this decade would be Roger the Dodger, Roger Staubach, which was more of a panic than anything, but he could, and because he was a pure athlete and a competitor.
Right.
But what's interesting about Fran Tarkenton is that wasn't. I mean, he had that skill and the ability to do it, and it was part of it. And of course, it was part of it, right, was the response of how the offense is going to handle a defense like this. Mm-hmm. Is have the ability of a quarterback to be able to either on intentional rollout or get flushed out of the pocket or whatever, take advantage of that. But Frank Tarkenton would be a very high quality passer. In fact, as he goes through the rest of his career, he would retire as one of the high ranked quarterbacks in league history. All the career stats from passing. So he was, again, maybe overplaying it. The dual threat was there. I don't think it was designed like we think about the quarterbacks that would come later in the 80s and 90s, and many of us have talked about guys like Randall Cunningham and Michael Vick, et cetera, et cetera. And we're not talking about that, but this idea that a quarterback just didn't. I mean, he was a pocket passer, but he had that ability, right? Not maybe designed as much, but if you flushed him out, you're going to be chasing him all over the place before you tracked him down. And maybe he gained 5, 10, 11 yards, maybe lost some yards. But he wasn't just going to fall to the ground, right? And like he wasn't some statue standing back there. Mm-hmm. This was a threat that the Steelers had to be watching for. That the fact that if he got loose, the twisting, the turning, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and just trying to get the damn guy on the ground. And I'm sure, as a defensive player, right, you're just frustrated with that kind of quarterback. You'd rather just rush right up, plow him down, push him on the ground, kick him while he's down, walk away. Yeah. But to try to keep chasing these guys would just infuriate, I suspect, the Steeler defensive players. But that was the guy. That's who he was.
Well, he scrambles on here, but he doesn't get the first down. Andy Russell almost picks it off. So Minnesota's got a punt again. But we've got another penalty here on the return, but we don't know who. It's a tripping penalty. So, Pittsburgh 1st and 10 on the 15. Give to Harris. He gets 5. 2nd and 5, Bradshaw went deep for Stallworth. So it's Stallworth in his first time targeted, but it was covered well by Jackie Wallace, who had a really good game. 3rd and 5, it's complete to Lynn Swan, but it was pass interference. So now we're at 3rd and 15.
Pass interference against Swan. I mean,
yeah, offensive pass interference.
People need to understand in this era, all of the rules in the play favored the defense. They could pound the crap out of wide receivers all over the field, right?
Oh, and so keep talking. I gotta check on my dog.
So it's it's sort of a crazy thing to think about that a receiver would be called for pass interference, which is what happened and negated the whole play at a time when the defenses could push receivers down off the release from the line. I mean, pass interference was a penalty, but a lot of receivers got really manhandled all over the field with or without the ball. And you just sort of chuckle to think, even today, you don't see it but even that time, even must have made people kind of like a pass interference against the receiver.
Right.
Crazy.
When he was bad, when he got into something.
No.
So I had to check on that. So Winnie, what do you think? You're going to apologize to everyone?
Not really.
No, apparently not. Winnie.
So we got 3rd and 15 on the Pittsburgh 10 is where we're left after that.
Yeah.
Negated pass reception by Swan.
Well, here we go. Rocky Bleier gets the ball, rushes for 8, but he coughs it up. It falls just right into Randy Pottle. I might be saying that wrong. And so it's Minnesota 1st and 10 on Pittsburgh 24. And I wrote down, again, because I'm trying to put myself in that mindset, not knowing what happened. I said earlier that Minnesota felt due. I would have thought that. And here we go. Now we got the destiny, right? It just feels like this is how it should all play out if you're a Viking fan. Or just an unbiased football fan. You know, Osborne gets the first, rushes for 2. But the Steelers sniff out a fake draw play. Tarkenton can't get returning Foreman, so we have who's trying to come back for it. 3rd and 8, and here we go. Tarkenton's incomplete. The pass is too high for Foreman at the 5. So, but at least they can try and get some points on the board. So it's a 39-year-old. God damn it, 39-yard. I'm gonna have to write this all down. Yard, not year. Why am I doing this? 39-yard field goal attempt by Fred Cox. They said that Cox for the year was 12 for 20. That sucks. Back then, that was, all right, we'll take that.
Yeah.
Well, he sucks here too, and it goes to the right of the uprights. 0-0. So we have 3 missed field goals, despite you and I being completely in agreement how much kicking has improved since
apparently
series in '67.
Apparently has not improved enough.
Well,
given what we've seen already with 2 what we would consider relatively short field goals being missed.
Well, we got a commercial. It's the Mac Davis Show. Baby, baby, don't get hooked on me. He's got special guests, Ray Charles and Nanette Fabre. I don't know who that was. I look it up. She was the mother or the grandmother in One Day at a Time. Apparently, she was a big cabaret singer back in the day. Ray Charles thought the show was so bad. I don't know if he decided not to watch it.
Thankfully he didn't have to watch it.
No, all right. Sorry, 70. There's another thing I don't understand in the 70s: wood paneling, and why every show was a goddamn variety show.
Yep.
Awful. Yep. All right, we're back. We see a graphic that here's something that's going to be really important, and it tells the whole story. Rushing yards: Pittsburgh 64, Minnesota 1.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got the Chuck Noll pattern here. Blyer gets the first carry of the drive. It's a 1-yard loss. Franco gets it again for 2. Again, that's what they're doing. That's the pattern I watched mostly here. 3rd and 9, Bradshaw drops back for a quick release to Stallworth. Stallworth only had 16 receptions this year as a rookie. Obviously, he's going to have a lot more, and we're going to be talking about him in greater depth. But here, he's just this quick, inexperienced guy on the pro level who they're trying to build up. But it's complete, and Pittsburgh's got 1st and 10 on their own 46. Blyer finds a nice hole because, again, Blyer. It's Blyer and Harris. So he gets 6, and Harris gets 2. Blyer gets it next on the pitch, but he doesn't get a gain here. Seaman gets the tackle, and it was Seaman who actually had the tackle on all 3 of these plays on the last 3. Steelers have to punt it, and it's a great one. Rookie Sam McCollum grabbed it at the 6, but he should have let it go. Would have been a touchback. So special teams mistake there that cost them 13 yards. Minnesota's got it on the 1st and 10 on their own 7, but before that, we've got a commercial. It looks like a used car commercial, but it's this Chrysler thing. I don't know what the hell this is. And apparently, if you have a Pinto or a Vega, you can return that for some good shit. If you have a Pinto or a Vega, you've got other problems.
So I think I recall this correctly, that they had a major hazard, right? Rear end collisions or something that would cause the gas tank to burst and fire risk. And
really?
I think I'd have to go back and look, but I recall that issue coming up. And when you see a commercial like that where they're trying to encourage, it's very rare that you see like a company encouraging somebody to trade in their vehicle for another. It makes you wonder why, and I think that was the case.
Okay, there you go. Oh, then we get another commercial for New York Life. It's the only good commercial because they're using actual football analogies to sell their product. Well, you're watching football. This makes sense. I can understand that. Anyway, Foreman gets it. He rushes for 3, which at this point, that's his best rush. Yeah. 2nd and 7 at the 10. The handoff goes to Osborne, and something just went wrong. It gets away from Tarkenton as he's trying to get it to Osborne. Tarkenton recovers it in his own end zone, but that's a safety.
Yep.
I wrote down here that DeGrotis called it earlier. Says like with the way this game is going, some defense is going to have to score. He was right.
Yep, there you go. First safety in Super Bowl history.
Yeah. So we've got a lead. Pittsburgh 2, Minnesota nothing. Go to a commercial and there's somebody at a shooting range. What the hell are they shooting? Well, they're shooting a lock.
Oh, yeah, I remember that commercial. Yeah.
Master lock once.
Yeah, that was their gimmick for years in marketing.
Oh,
yeah, I remember that. That's cool.
I think I heard somewhere that Master Lock, what they did, because they kept doing Super Bowl commercials forever. And they justified at one point that 1/3 of their advertising budget is just for a Super Bowl commercial. I don't think they do that anymore, but so I thought it was sort of interesting. So there was a caveat, there was multiple tests done because the guy's shooting at this lock and like gets it right there in the bullseye, but the lock still doesn't open. Well, why didn't he shoot at the middle part, the thin part?
Yeah.
That would have opened then. Because I don't know about you, but when I lock up things, I'm really worried about a sharpshooter. Okay. Next commercials for Goodyear, and they're talking about their 8 grooves. There's grooves in this, grooves in that. I wrote down, it's the 70s. Why don't you say this is groovy? Yeah, really messed that up. All right, so we got a free kick. Pittsburgh's 1st and 10 on their own 35. Bradshaw with the pass completion of Blyer on a play action. Harris rushes for 2. So Bradshaw throws laterally to Stallworth, pretty much. But Jackie Wallace he's right there. It's a loss of 6. So another forced punt. Walden with another good one. Minnesota's got 1st and 10 on their own 20. Tarkenton's got a lot of time, so his offensive line, he hasn't always had a lot of time in the pocket. Sometimes by design because he's not in the pocket, but he throws deep for Gillum, and who's held by Mel Blount.
Yeah.
So it's a 15-yard penalty. Minnesota's got 1st and 10 on their own 35. At least this time we actually could see that. So that was sort of neat. Osborne tackled for 1 yard loss by Dwight White. Foreman rolls right. Tarkenton rolls right for Foreman, gets a 10-yard pass. So I mean, Foreman's at least receiving. He's not rushing. So we got 3rd and 1. Foreman again, rush for 2, which isn't much, but it's enough for the 1st down. Vikings on their own 46. Tarkenton rolls right again, finds nothing, throws it out of bounds. From the way they were describing it, that should have been an intentional grounding by those rules at that time. That's what the commentators thought. That's what Chuck Noll was upset about, but it wasn't. So, refereeing has also improved a lot since. We'll see a lot of that later. Foreman rushes again for only 2, so we have 3rd and 8. He tries to find Foreman at midfield on 3rd and 8, but it doesn't. It's what happened here? It got tipped with Foreman tipped it with his left hand, and Foreman was just phenomenal here. They had 3 Steelers descending on him, even though he was open at the time. But goddamn, the balls you have to have as open receiver.
Yeah,
and it worked out for him. So Minnesota's driving very, very well. 1st and 10 on the 35. Foreman, what was it? For 4 yards, which is his best of the day at that point. And we're already at the 2-minute warning. 2nd and 6 on the Pittsburgh 31. Tarkenton rolls out again, finds Voigt on the sideline for a 3-yard gain, 3rd and 3. Short pass to Osborne. We got 1st and 10 on the 25.
Yeah, so we got a drive going here, right? We had bit of pause and go and some short stuff, but probably one of the better drives moving down the field in a game in which the Vikings are only down by those 2 points, getting close to the end of the first half, and they got something rolling here. But
they're still and they're in technically field goal range, so you should think, if you're a Vikings fan, all right, we're positioned right now to have the lead going into the half. And the way things have been playing, if that works out, you are golden.
Yeah.
All things considering.
Yep.
Tarkinson did not roll right on this one. He drops straight back, finds there's Gilliam in the open. He leaps for it, and as he's coming down, Edwards comes across, pops the ball out of his hands up in the air, and it's an easy floater for Mel Blount, who's in the end zone. He rushes it back for 10 yards. Edwards just played this perfectly. And Pittsburgh's got 1st and 10 on their own 10 with a minute and 5 to go. Nowadays, you sort of think, well, maybe they're going to try and go for some kind of points. That's not how it was back then. The first play, it looked like they were going to rush to Rocky, but it wasn't. It was intended for Bradshaw all along. And Bradshaw, who we just said was told how he was stupid, realizes pretty quick, this is not going anywhere. I'm holding on to the ball, and I'm dropping right down. Just smart play by Bradshaw. I'm going to protect the ball. I am not giving you anything. All right. It looked like the last minute of the first half wasn't there in this broadcast. What we missed was Franco Harris rushed for 25, Blyer 1 yard loss, and Bradshaw rushes for 17, but we don't quite know exactly why that is. So we have halftime, Pittsburgh 2, Minnesota nothing. On halftime, Gowdy mentions how it's only 40 degrees, and they go through the first half stats. And again, the ones I wrote down here that I thought were important. Rushing yards, Minnesota 11, Pittsburgh 129. Total yards 76 to 165. That tells the story right there. Any story you want about that front four. And they're not doing that against a scrub. They're doing that against Chuck Foreman, a future Hall of Famer.
Then we got the turnovers, key turnovers. We've got the missed field goals. A lot of short plays. We got a bunch of penalties in there. Kind of a sloppy first half. And I think you hit on the highlight was that the Steelers were able to rush the ball and the Vikings were not. That's sort of the key takeaway. But otherwise, it's kind of a sloppy first half, and the conditions aren't really getting any better. It's still cold and wet, and not a lot of highlights. In the game, and a game that the score is just 2-0 at halftime.
But for me, I was so entertained by this. I love it.
Here we go.
Well, halftime show, which we didn't see, it was the Grambling Marching Band and a tribute to Duke Ellington, who just passed away, another New Orleans legend. As we're coming back, the commentators, this is so strange. They're marveling, Bud Grant, he's wearing a headset. Like they'd never seen that before. And basically just wanted to be informed with everything going on, which makes obvious sense. But I think DeGrotis, and not one of his better commentators, or it might have been Don Meredith, I don't know, says, well, it keeps one of his ears warm.
He might have been right about that.
Well, an added bonus, but yes. Steelers kick off to start the third, and it's a squib kick. I don't know if it was on purpose. It didn't look like it was. Kicks at 37 yards. Bill Brown, who was a 14-year veteran at this point, picks it up, but it just slips out of his hand. So talking about the weather before, and it's a horrible way for him to go. This was his last game, and he was a 4-time Pro Bowler. Like, thankfully, he's not necessarily known for this, but I would imagine that had to eat at him for years. Yeah. Pittsburgh's Marv Kellen picks it up, and Pittsburgh's got a gift. It's 1st and 10 on the Minnesota 30. On the first play, Blyer, because of course it's always Blyer, he goes nowhere, gets hit at the line, and they do what they always do. Franco gets the ball next, but he's got some great blocks, and he rushes that for 24. Sorry about that. When he wanted to go back down, too bad, because when he was about to be used on the prop soon, but oh well. I think maybe she knew what was going on. So we've got first and goal on the Minnesota 6. Harris gets the ball first on this. Tackle for loss by Hilgenberg, but on 2nd and goal, they give it to Harris again. Gary Mullins, what a perfect block. Perfect. Harris runs the 9 yards untouched. We've got our first touchdown since when he's not here. Touchdown! Extra point's good, and it's 9-0.
Yeah, so if you're a Vikings fan, right? You think you're a lot of frustration because, largely outplayed in the first half, but only down by the 2.
Yeah.
and you're getting the ball right at the beginning of the second half, and you've got that unfortunate fumble deep in their own territory, and the Steelers do what really great teams do, right? You take advantage of those turnovers, and in a close game like this, with the conditions and the way that offenses are playing, and the high quality defenses on both sides, you take advantage. You got to take advantages of these opportunities. And the Steelers punched us in and take a 9-0 lead early in the third quarter.
Mm-hmm. All right, so kickoff is run back by McCollum, and we got 1st and 10 for Minnesota on their own 28. Osborne rushes for 2, Foreman for 1. So again, the rushing game just still not going. Tarkenton passes for 6, and they're just a foot shy. And this was so befuddling here. So the Vikings are going to stay on the field. They're going to go for it. And the commentators they're thinking that obviously Minnesota thinks this is what they have to do. And it shows everything about the importance of this game. And it's a ballsy call, the way Pittsburgh's defense has been, especially the front four. So, but really what they were trying to do, which we see a lot more often now, and the commentators didn't pick up on it until later, but they were trying to get them to jump offside.
Okay. Yeah.
And then they did. They did get them to jump offside. From what I can tell in the replay, Pittsburgh did jump offside, several players. If there was a Minnesota flinch, I couldn't catch it. Did you, or am I missing something?
No, I didn't see anything that sort of stood out very obvious, but obviously, yeah, something must have done.
And this is where we've got just horrific officiating right here, because they whistle it the whole thing dead after it looked like Pittsburgh obviously jumped. There was no flag, and so nobody actually threw a flag. No ref did. Everyone's confused. I'm confused. I guess you're confused. The commentators are confused. The fans are confused. Nobody knows what the hell happened. It's still 4th and a foot. So that play, it's like it never existed.
Yeah, really bizarre, crazy.
Oh, sorry, just one sec here. Winnie's doing something again. So this was a total mess. I don't even know what to say more than this. If I'm a Vikings fan, I am furious. And they should be. I mean, like, even though we've evolved much better than, this is a play that they just said did not happen. It did not exist. I don't ever remember seeing this ever in any capacity where, okay, well, we're just doing a do-over.
Right.
But, well, so Minnesota's going to punt. Whatever they thought they were going to do, I guess they're going to do differently now. Swan takes it, and he's viciously thrown down, looks like a horse collar. And I've never, well, not never, but just plowed.
Yeah.
The commentator is saying, like, where's the penalty? And this is the 70s, right? Yeah. So if they're looking for a penalty,
must have been pretty brutal.
And it was, but again, nothing going on there. We get back to a commercial, and it's Joe Garagiola trying to sell me Chryslers. That didn't happen. Back from commercial, Gowdy is still confused. Like, he's like, again, from that non-play, he's not impressed, and he's right. 1st and 10 for Pittsburgh on their own 27. So I think I talked earlier before about Minnesota's luck. Well, that luck ran out, with that whole thing, because they were screwed over on that one.
Yeah.
1st and 10 on their own 27. Harris rushes for 9 and then for 4. So 1st and 10 on their own 40. Stallworth gets the pass for 8, and Harris rushes for another 4. Another first down. Now we're in Minnesota territory on the 48. Bradshaw was great here. He escaped what should have been a 15-yard sack, and manages to turn that into a 5-yard rush. Pretty good. A design play for a Bradshaw rush only gets 1. So we've got 3rd and 5. They give it to Blyer, who's absolutely decimated by Carl Heller for no gain. So the Steelers are going to have to punt, and they do that. It goes into the end zone, and we got a touchback. Minnesota 1st and 10 on their own 20, and Borman is tackled for loss by Andy Russell. And Russell just chopped him down like a tree. This next play is so fascinating.
Yeah.
Tarkenton rolls right again. The pass is batted back to him. Now, to his credit, he keeps his composure and finds Gillum all alone at the 50, who gets another 10 yards. So it would have been first and 10 on the Pittsburgh 40. But there's a flag down because that's an illegal forward pass. He already threw it, so you can't do it again. Which most people, I think myself, when I was watching this, thought, holy shit, this is great.
Yeah.
But you don't think of that. You don't think, because it never happens.
Yeah, I mean, because I can only imagine that that's a fairly rare, odd thing to happen at that point in NFL history of the game at this level. Nowadays, right, quarterbacks are probably a little more prepared for what to do if that happens, which is not to turn around and try to throw the ball forward a second time in a row. But in this case, I mean, yeah, Tarkenton, his instincts kicked in regardless of how it should have been played or the rule, which he broke. But to be able to recover from that and think of it still as an opportunity, right? Your mindset is actually still pretty admirable. I mean, it didn't work out. I guess in his view, it didn't work out, but at least it was a shot at something. And yeah, it's kind of a unique kind of look at the play. But again, if you're Minnesota, I know it was a legitimate call in terms of any legal play, but still another oddity in the game. I guess you could maybe not call it a bad luck as much as an oddity in the game that hurt the Vikings.
Yeah, and you got to give, like, Tarkenton probably didn't. I mean, he might not have even known that, even though he's a 14-year pro. Yeah. Like, when does that happen?
Yeah.
Like, Brett Favre's first ever completion was to Brett Favre.
Yeah. I mean,
his first ever interception, by the way, defensively, was against the Mississippi Welfare Board.
There you go.
Thank you. I should write that down to tell that joke. Another stat comes up about Minnesota's lack of rushing, which is now at this point only 13 yards. But they nearly equal this on this play on Foreman's only good rush, which it was an 11-yard one, probably because they weren't expecting it. So they relaxed a little bit. And Minnesota's got a first down on their own 31. Osborne rushes for 1, gets it again, but L.C. Greenwood crushes him for a 5-yard loss. Tarkenton rolls on his right, and on the play action finds Luke Voigt. That's a baseball player. Finds Voigt for 28 yards. I think that's his longest completion of the day. Minnesota's got it first and 10 on their own on Pittsburgh 45, and 4 minutes tackled for a loss by a backup named Ed Bradley, who later went on to be a star in 60 Minutes.
Yep.
Different Ed Bradley. But then we got a disaster here for Minnesota. Tarkenton goes to his left, and the pass is deflected by White and then intercepted by Mean Joe. Pittsburgh first and 10 on their own 40. I talked about how Tarkenton, when I was a kid, I didn't know for years that he was a former football player. We all saw the Mean Joe Green commercial for him and Coca-Cola, right? Like, if that's not one of the best commercials of all time, I don't know what is. Just phenomenal. Just kids, if you haven't seen it, just take a look at it. It might not seem like it's that big a deal, but it's near perfect. You know, Mean Joe's sort of battered, and a Coke makes him feel better, and the kid gets to look up at a hero.
Yeah.
Love it. Franco gets the ball, rushes for 4, 2nd and 6, rushes for no gain. 3rd and 6, Bradshaw drops right back. It's bad pass, but it's intercepted by Seaman. But as we're watching that, we could clearly see that one of the Vikings linemen jumped offside. So the refs got it right here. This was pretty clear right away. So the penalty makes it 1st and 10 for Minnesota in the 49. Harris again for 1, Harris for 3, and it's the end of the 3rd quarter. Pittsburgh is playing their game, and Minnesota is confused. And they're still lucky to even be here.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a 9-0 game. with a whole quarter to go, certainly not inconceivable that a team, if
Not at
they get
all.
a few things to go right for them, and yes, they're not having much luck running the ball, but a couple key plays and maybe get the advantage of a turnover. They're right back in this, potentially right back in this game very quick. Yeah, I mean, in terms of the yardage and giving up the run, they're sort of being dominated. But we've already highlighted, and we're going to talk about a few more coming up.
Yeah.
They had some fluky, crazy things that just didn't go their way. As the expression goes, the ball just didn't bounce what they needed, but this is actually a competitive game in terms of the scoring and where we're at going into the fourth quarter.
Again, if you're Minnesota, you're thinking, okay, my defense is still doing very, very well. We can't run, but I still have Fran Tarkenton, who is trying to make something out of nothing a lot. This wasn't his day, but I think he was just overmatched.
Well, even today or even back in that time, right? We as a fan, you're sitting there like it only takes one play, right? One mistake, one fumble by Pittsburgh, one missed tackle, right? Mm-hmm. One big rush. You're only one play, not a miracle play, but just a fluky play that gets the Vikings down the field to a point where they can get a touchdown and they're in the game. That's all it would take.
If I'm at the bar in Minneapolis, I'm not leaving it. If I'm at home, I'm not destroying my 25-inch color TV that I just bought.
I mean, I'm sure you're frustrated because it's been a frustrating game for a Vikings fan with all the bloopers and the turnovers and the penalties and the missed field goal and the wackiness of some of the plays. So I'm sure there's a bit of grinding your teeth aggravation. But you're right. You're not to the point like there's no chance we could come back. But you realize, it's a close game, and I'm going to sit this out. We might have a shot yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So we got some commercials. Something for the equitable. I don't know what that is. I guess insurance. And then there's a real creepy one for Quaker State. The pitchman's in the back seat of this young couple who were trying to make out, and he's like, I don't know what his whole point was. I think the guy who played it, he looked like the guy who was, I think it's the same actor from the Jeffersons. I think that was Tom Willis. I don't, George Jefferson's neighbor. I think that's who it was. Well, why does this want to make me buy oil?
Yeah, that is weird.
What the hell is that? Then we have our second and final PSA of the game. It's Andy Russell doing a really good job saying, hey, support the United Way. I thought he was a better PSA person than Tarkenton, frankly.
Yeah, and I can remember back in this era, and it probably continued for a long time, right? There often was, United Way often would do these PSAs, right? And they would pick a high-profile player to highlight. And so they were kind of a consistent thing that you would see in Super Bowl games for many, many years, expect them to come up and do one of those. And, here they are.
I still would have went with Mean Joe. Donate or else.
Yes, I'll hunt you down.
Absolutely. First play of the quarter, Bradshaw's incomplete, intended for his tight end, and it's a short punt, which is a fair catch. And then go to another commercial right away. One for Goodyear, and then one for Budweiser. It's another beer commercial where they're skiing. It's a second one where they're skiing.
This is January. I mean,
yes,
you're not going to be on the beach, but
I guess they hired the same company.
Probably, yeah. Can you make two of these for us at the price of one?
There you go. Well, this one, it's a twist because the skier's doing flips, and it turns out it's a hot chick.
Whoa!
Likes her Budweiser. Budweiser, again, did not come up with better commercials in 2023.
Yeah, that's right.
Or ones that, I shouldn't say bad ones. Let's just say they're spokesperson of 2023 for like a one-off thing. Probably never drank a beer in their life. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, and missed the target audience. So broader in terms of branding beer. It's
very wide left.
Yeah.
Is that a joke? Or, I don't know.
No, it works.
Thank you. Minnesota's 1st and 10 on their own 24. Tarkenton threads right into Foreman on a beautiful 5-yard pass. Foreman tries to rush, again, gets nothing. Tarkenton tries to find Foreman, but the ball is tipped and it's incomplete. It's just not going well for them. So they're forced to punt. Swan returns it to the 46, and first and 10 on the 46 on their own 46. So pretty good field position with a 9-point lead. But Franco fumbles. And he just didn't have it. So as soon as he got it, it was juggle hands the whole time. And safety Paul Krause gets the recovery. This is the huge opportunity that Minnesota needs.
Yeah, here we are, right? We just talked about it a few minutes ago, right?
Yep.
You're still in the game. You need a play or a break to go your way, and then you need to take advantage of that. And here you are right now. You're early in that. You still got lots of time, and you're not back down by very far. You've got a shot. Great field position. This is your opportunity, right? To make the rest of the game, all the frustration from early in the game kind of wash away. You could do it all right here with this possession.
Absolutely. And it looks like they're going to do that right away. Tarkenton goes deep for Gillum, who is catching. Well, I don't know did he catch it or not? Doesn't matter. He's out of bounds, but you can see in the replay that he's pushed out of bounds by Wagner, and he gets hit by a huge penalty. And it's the correct call because Wagner's not looking back. So if he looks back, it might be a sort of different thing, but he didn't. And that's a 42-year-old penalty.
Yeah.
42-yard pentelty. Year-old. God damn.
Yeah, that puts the Vikings right on Pittsburgh on the 5-yard line. So yeah, here they are.
First and goal on the 5. Foreman gets it. It's another rush, but fumbles and recovered by Mean Joe Green, who would have been my MVP, but I got no problem with Franco.
And maybe if you're a Viking fan, you're crashing your TV about now.
Yeah, exactly. Because
this might have just pushed you over that edge where here we are. And again, it didn't. You might get a few fans that are starting to get out of their seats at home or in the stadium or in the bar and the hell with this, I'm leaving.
But just wait a few more minutes.
It's not over till it's over.
Right. So first and 10 on their own 7. Franco rushes for 8. Then for no gain, and then Blyer for no gain. So it's 4th and 2, and the Steelers are going to punt. I wrote down DeGroat sees Nostradamus here. He's talking about how Minnesota has been so close to blocking punts. What happens? Matt Blair blocks it. Just looks like he came in unevaded. Terry Brown's right there to pick up for the easy touchdown. Extra point's no good, which isn't going to play into it later, but if you're Minnesota, it's like, thank effing God. Thank you.
Yeah. And if you're the guy that trashed your TV a few minutes before, you're trying to get it to work again. And if you're one of these people that were leaving the stadium, leaving the bar, picking up on your TV, and if you're still in earshot, you're like turning around to go like, whoa, wait a minute, I need to get back in this game. Yeah, here we are. The Vikings 9-6 with just under 11 minutes left in the game.
10:53 to go.
Stops the game.
Oh my God, yeah. I said to you before we went on, I enjoyed this so much, just from the historical perspective, and I love great defense. And this is what we have.
It's a sloppy game in a lot of ways, right? We pointed that out, but there's a drama to it as it plays out, right? There is sort of the ebbs and flow and the drama of this game, because here we are, right? Moving our way through the fourth quarter, and it's not a given. Let's think about this. Let's stop for pause for a second for everybody. It is not a given at this point. Yes, the Steelers have the lead. They've dominated the game, but here we are. It's a 9-6 game in the first Super Bowl of what would be the Steelers dynasty. And I think we would both agree that's still hanging in the air of what might happen. It's not like the Steelers are in their first Super Bowl and they dominate the whole game and they lead the whole way, right? And the Vikings never have a chance and it's way over and everybody knows well in the game that this. No, everything is still yet to be determined. The winner of this game and the future of these two franchises in terms of Super Bowls and teams in the 70s, we're at that fork in the road.
Yeah.
And it could still go either way.
Absolutely. And, how many times as sports fans have we watched a team get dominated Doesn't even matter. Not just football, baseball, hockey, boxing. Doesn't matter. And somebody gets statistically dominated in everything except for the scoreboard. And
Yep. And it's things like penalties and mistakes and turnovers and fumble and weather conditions that are all in a
right.
mix here that have led that to situations. But I just, and how many times have you sat in a game and, you wouldn't really think about it till years later in hindsight, but that you were at, as I referred to it, that proverbial fork in the road for these two franchises,
Mm-hmm.
and seeing how that might play out in a way this is going to go to let the foundation move forward for the Steelers, and the Vikings continue to struggle in the 70s and
This
Super
day,
Bowls.
they still haven't won.
Yeah, we're there. It hasn't been, history's not been written yet.
And you were talking earlier about sort of the hierarchy of NFL legacy and teams, and Minnesota's in that top half.
Yes,
Higher
they
than my
certainly are. What they lack, right? And again, we're at that pivot point here. What they lack, of course, is a history that does not have a legacy of a lot of championships, Super Bowls, kind of, but as a team with a lot of success and a strong fan base and a lot of elite players, including some of the guys we see in here. And
mm-hmm.
yeah, but there is a difference, and we're at that kind of point where the difference is we're gonna see that. We wouldn't know at the time. We wouldn't know it for years later, but the crack is gonna separate the two franchises in their history going forward right here.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. So Vikings kick off. I don't know if it was a design squib kick, but that's what it is. Returned by Reggie Harrison, who was a backup running back. He was a rookie. He returns it for 17, and Steelers are 1st and 10 on their own 24. So let's see what they're going to do here with this, because they're a little bit more nervous than they were before, I would think. Franco gets it on the first carry, doesn't get anything. On 2nd down, he avoids a tackle for loss and manages to get 8. Like, pretty good. Now, here is where I thought this was the ballsiest play of the game. It's a 3rd and 2, and Bradshaw finds Larry Brown for, deep for 30. And you're either a genius or an idiot here, because you got Franco, you got Blyer, who's doing pretty good here, and you're going to your tight end. But didn't we see a lot of that when we're looking at the Dolphins Super Bowl games, where these tight ends come out of nowhere seemingly because you're sleeping,
Yep. Yeah, and it wasn't something that we would see tight ends how they play today and how much more active they are in the passing game. There were certainly in this era some good pass receiving tight ends, but they weren't used the same. And you're right. I mean, if you think about how this play is, and when you go over the play-by-play, it seems to alternate, between Harris and Blyer here.
Right.
And you kind of get, this is the rhythm, and this is the kind of offense that the Steelers run, and then the occasional big pass or a pass attempt by Bradshaw. So this is really quite, something to come in and decide at this point, because again, just think of where they're at. If this doesn't work, they're punting. They're giving the ball back to Minnesota with pretty good field position and lots of time on the clock.
Yeah. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Brown might have fumbled. Well, he did fumble. He fumbled, but when did he fumble? So I went back at this over and over. So I think it went slightly before his ass hit the ground.
I thought the same thing. I watched it, and I watched it, and I think the commentators. I don't think it took very long. I think they finally kind of said, "Well, yeah, he was on the ground, then he fumbled." And that they kind of went along with what happened. But as soon as they were saying that, I still was thinking back. At the very least, that's a darn close call.
Right.
I mean,
but it was, but what happened though? He fumbled it. It was recovered by Minnesota, but they say that the ref blew it dead before. So, like, how did that happen? That's and it could have again sort of went easily the other way. So, like, if he didn't blow that early, and then he says Minnesota's got the ball, the ref, then it's not getting overturned because there is no instant replay. So the crowd's upset. There's a lot of boos, and I don't blame them, because in real time, I mean, in real time, when I first look at it, I thought that was a completion after, but then you look at it really quick after. It's like, well, it didn't take too long to see that. No, I think that was a fumble. So Minnesota should have had the ball. Again, luck is not with them.
Well, yeah, I mean, it clearly, I think the most controversial call in this game.
Absolutely.
I think where we are in the history of the Super Bowls, it's I can't. There probably were a couple others, but this one certainly ranks up there. And the context, as you mentioned, right?
Mm-hmm.
How significant the play would have went either way
Changes everything.
means everything in the
Yeah.
game. And it again is another, if we want to coin this for the Vikings, a lost opportunity. I mean, it wasn't a lost opportunity or just not. Things just didn't go their way, if you want to use that expression.
The great Jesse the Body Ventura used to say, another Minnesota resident, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good.
Yes.
And Pittsburgh was certainly lucky. And it's sort of funny because like you and I, we sort of hummed and hawed whether we wanted to do this game. And I'm so glad we did.
Yeah, I'm glad we did. I mean, I didn't, frankly, I remember the game, but until I went back and kind of looked at it in more detail, and you see that a lot of the nuances that we're pointing out and a lot of the interesting side stories and just how the game played out, it is an intriguing one. Even though if you simply just looked at the box score and you looked at the final score, you wouldn't necessarily, you'd hear, well, which is, the Steelers dominated the rushing game. And then, of course, in the context of history today, it's the beginning of the dynasty of the Steelers. That's how it's viewed. But you get a different perspective when you do this sort of thing and you go through play by play and really think about how it would have played out in real time. Yeah. And the nuances and the situations came up in the game. It makes it not a highlight game, right? Not a lot of big flashy plays, but
okay,
from a football perspective, it was an interesting, intriguing game, right up till the end.
Yeah. So Pittsburgh's got 1st and 10 on the Minnesota 28. Blyer rushes for 5, but that's nullified on an illegal motion penalty. Gets nothing on 1st and 15, but gets 17 on the next one. So they're just going all Blyer here. And we got a 1st down on the Minnesota 16. Harris rushes for 4, then for another 1. On 3rd and 5, Bradshaw finds Blyer for 6-yard pass, enough for a 1st down. 1st and goal, Minnesota 5. All right. Franco rushes for 2. Doesn't get a gain on the 2nd, but on 3rd and goal, Bradshaw rolls right and finds his tight end Brown in the end zone. Again, they probably weren't looking for him because there wasn't a whole lot of people around him. Touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, this is right, the longest, most successful series by the Steelers in this game, right? They had the touchdown with the short field, right? And then they had the safety. And in this case, this is a good mix of plays and a long
7 minutes off the clock.
Move them down the field.
Yeah.
It does the kind of things you want your team to do when you're under 11 minutes left in the game. As you say, you want to be able to move the ball, get 1st downs, keep things moving, get yourself in a position, eat the clock up, and then get yourself in a case here to be able to get more points. So it's not a 1 field goal difference in the game in terms of the score anymore. You kind of take a little bit more of a lead, get the game to the 16, again, a 6 for the Steelers. And, now with just over 3 minutes left in the game, 3.5 minutes left in the game, then you really see the Steelers are kind of positioning themselves for a win. And this was the drive, I think, of the whole game that kind of, again, not fancy and elaborate, not really flashy, but it got it done. And it did what we just said needed to be done. Eat the clock, get the yards, and then clap it with a touchdown to make a gap much harder for the Vikings to come back.
Best drive of the game by far.
Yeah.
So we only have 3:31 to go. Pittsburgh's now got a 10-point lead. Kickoff, Brent McClanahan, first time we've mentioned him. He has a nice return. And the Vikes have got 1st and 10 on their own 39. And there we go. Tarkenton throws it deep for Gilliam, but Mike Wagner read it the whole way. Jumps right in front, intercepts it, returns for 26 yards. Just like that. Now you're leaving the bar.
Yeah. But what other choice do the Vikings have, right? I mean, they're just over 3 minutes in the game. They're down by 10. They haven't been able to run the ball consistently almost the entire game. and they really need a big play, right? They need something quick. We all know the football strategy is playing out here, and
It's right. It's
you
right.
gotta break something open, and you got a receiver who can do that, and you just can't grind it down the field or short pass and kind of slowly make your way down because you're down by 10, the clock's against you. Yeah, you got to do something. I wouldn't say desperate, but you really need a big, fast play. And
Yeah, you're right. It's not quite desperate, but it's urgent.
yeah.
So it was the right play call. Just he got beat.
Yeah, what can you do?
Pittsburgh's got it 1st and 10 on the great field position still too on the Minnesota 42, and the Steelers are doing exactly what they should. They're eating as much clock as they can, so everything's going to be rushing plays. It should be. Franco rushes for 2, and then another one. And then we already have the 2-minute warning, so they just managed to do that again expertly. We've got a commercial here. I got Cowboys drinking Schlitz. Rope up a bunch of bisons. You want to drink Schlitz.
So recapping here, if you're trying to build your beer marketing promotion at this time, it's Cowboys and skiers, right? We got that right?
Yeah. So if you're a skier with a cowboy hat,
you're right. You're the demographic, or at least you're the branding and the marketing, right? That they really want.
They even went conservatory a bit, or environmental. There used to not be a whole lot of bisons, and now there are because of Schlitz.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
good for you guys.
Hey, I'll tell a story about my late father here. My brother and I, because my dad loves cowboy films. So for Christmas one time, we bought him Brokeback Mountain, and we said, "Okay,
you guys."
Okay, Dad, it's the new cowboy films are back. Here's the one. And he went there and he watched it, and so we're just like, wait. Aren't you gonna watch it with us? Like, no, Dad, come on. It's because we always did Christmas Day together, so we got him doing that. And then like an hour later, what the fuck is this? Because he's a little old school. He wasn't expecting that.
Yeah. I know where you're going.
Yeah, so it was a great film. I'll say that, but if you're an old school guy like my dad, it was not.
It's just not going to resonate now.
No, that was not John Wayne. That was for sure. Not that those John Wayne films age particularly.
Yeah, but
classic
Western still.
Yeah.
After Searchers, that's one of my favorite.
Yeah, that's one. I do like that one. So after the 2-minute warning, it's 3rd and 7. Harris rushes for 15, and they announced that he set the Super Bowl record for rushing yards with 158. So breaking Larry Zonka's. We looked at that not that long ago. So it's 1st and 10 on the 23, and they already announced that Franco Harris has won the MVP. And they might as well, because nothing's going to change here to really alter that. Harris doesn't get the ball again. Blyer rushes for 6, and on a reverse, Swan loses 6. That same 6, whatever. Blyer gets 7 back, and on 4th and 4, they're just going to keep it. Just not risk any kind of anything. And Blyer loses 6, but they don't really care. Minnesota's got it on downs, but there's 37 seconds left. Doesn't really matter. We finished the game with an incomplete pass and a 2-yard loss that ends the game, 16-6. I will commend the people in the production truck because they were looking for Franco, and there was Franco just with his finger up in the air, just that defining moment. That's who you want to find, and they did. Gowdy comments the most prophetic comment ever. The Steelers are young, and their best years are ahead of them. Yes, they are.
Yep. Obviously, folks had a sense of what they were seeing, although history would play out. But to kind of see where the team was and how they played, and Harris finished the game 34 carries for what was then a Super Bowl record, 158 yards, a touchdown. His record would stand until John Riggins broke it with 166. Blyer had 65 rushing yards and 2 receptions. Pittsburgh finished with a total of 57 rushing attempts, which remains the Super Bowl record to this day.
Yeah.
And they set at that time the record for most rushing yards in a Super Bowl as well. Bradshaw only completed 9 out of 14 for 96 yards and the 1 touchdown. Targeted 11 for 26, 100 yards, 3 interceptions, and a passing rating of only 14.1. Foreman was the best offensive contributor. It was the team's leading rusher and receiver, but even then, still just 18 yards rushing and the 50 yards receiving. Bud Grant, I found this kind of interesting. His quote, and nowadays I think you would probably get fined for this.
What did he say?
There were 3 bad teams out there: us, Pittsburgh, and the officials.
You would get fined, yes.
Yeah.
He was right.
And this is Minnesota's 3rd time to the Super Bowl, all losses. But a lot of negatives in here in terms of had only 2 scoring drives on offense, only 3 turnovers forced on defense, none of which resulted in any points. The Vikings just couldn't, I maybe hate to say it, they just couldn't win the big game. They struggled in those 3 Super Bowls. This game, as we pointed out, when you look at the box score, you can kind of see that, but you also see a situation where there were a total of 7 fumbles, 4 lost, 2 by each team. Total turnovers in the game, Pittsburgh 2, Vikings 5. The Steelers actually had twice as many penalties and a lot more penalty yards, I think, than we've seen in Super Bowls, especially for the team that would ultimately go on to win that game. And the other kind of highlight, kind of interesting historical perspective, the win made Steelers Chuck Noll the youngest head coach at the time to win the Super Bowl. He was 42 years old.
Okay.
Kind of interesting. Nowadays, right, young coaches are all in vogue, but to think of Chuck Noll, 42, we maybe wouldn't consider it being a young head coach today, given we said, the way the league's been going recently. And I don't think any of us, if we thought of Chuck Noll, would have thought he was 42 when they won their first Super Bowl. I think we all might have just assumed he was 10 years older than that, right? But of course, he coached for a long, long time. That's why
he was 62 for 20 years.
Yeah, that's massive,
something like that. We're going to be looking obviously at the Steelers again for Super Bowl X in a very important contest between them and Dallas. So that'll be our next one. But there's other things here in the Buchner verse. I have a verse. I have a Buchner.
Yes, you
verse.
do.
I do.
Let our viewers give us the big picture in the verse.
Yeah, there you go. The only problem is if you really don't like me, you're pretty much stuck with me because I'm in every show.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, I got to work on that. I try to get somebody else's to do their own show, but I'll do another pitch. Maybe I can get her to do it. Because I'm just tired of being in every damn show. There's another show, sports related, that I do with Glenn Pulowski, who's back from his journeys in Antarctica, and it's a classic sports review. We recorded roller games where we goof on roller games. We've decided what our next episode is going to be. We're going to do that next Monday. We've picked the 1994 Major League Baseball All-Star Game right before they go on strike. So we thought that would be sort of interesting to look at a certain era, how things are going, and how we're going to have a needle meter. How much steroids we think every batter is doing. Yeah, exactly. So we're going to be looking at that. So look for that soon.
And how many Montreal Expo fans are you going to piss off with that?
A lot, I imagine.
Yeah, right. Because weren't they that season? They were on a really historical roll, as I recall. And
they had the best record at that point in time.
Yeah.
Who was on that team? Larry Walker, DeShields. There's so many other ones.
Yeah, I mean that was going to possibly be their year. That's kind of
And if that happens, Montreal might still have baseball.
Yeah. Again, talk about a crossroads in sports history. You got yourself one with that game reflecting that season. Yeah,
absolutely. There's some talk about them getting it again, but they still have that same shitty stadium, which is
that's the problem. Nowadays, you just can't. Yeah, you got to have a great stadium. It doesn't need to be huge, but it has to have all the amenities, and it's got to be.
It's also a terrible location.
It is.
It'll never. I laugh every time somebody says to me, "Well, I think Montreal's going to get." No, they're not. Not
when you're trying to go up against large U.S. markets that don't have Major League Baseball and are prepared or have stadiums or prepared to build one and build a fan base, you're going up against that and you can't quite equal it. You're going to have a hard time convincing the owners to give
It's
you
the
a franchise.
stadium. It's all the
Yeah.
stadium. It's just not going to happen.
And there's no way the taxpayers in Quebec or in Canada are going to want to fund another stadium because they sunk so much into that one. What a folly that didn't end up being.
I was there 30 years ago and it was a hunk of shit.
Yeah.
And they're going to do this now?
Yeah, it's been that long for me, and it didn't. Yeah, and you can only imagine.
Yeah.
You can't put, as the expression goes, I don't know what they've done since then, but you can't put lipstick on a pig. It's still a pig.
There's a joke here. I'm just not, no. I'm taking the high road. I'm taking the high road for the first time. There's other things that we do. We do How the Hell Was This a Hit? And we just recorded, we did the safety dance. What was the one we did after that? Because we just did that. Crap. I just forgot. Well, I do a lot of shows. But anyways, it's How the Hell Was This a Hit? Where we sometimes look at weird ones. The next one's going to be Thomas Dolby's Science.
Yeah.
Damn, it's bothering me that I can't remember what I just recorded last night. What the hell was it?
It's a tease for your viewers.
Oh, I remember. It's The Proclaimers, 500 Miles.
All right.
That's what we did last night. And the next one is going to be Thomas Dolby's Science, and I get to pick the one afterwards. And I'm going to pick the worst thing I can think of. I might do Hello Mudda, Hello Fada.
Oh, you really are scraping the bottom of the barrel on that one.
It was a top 10 hit for some reason.
Crazy.
I don't understand how that happened, but it did happen. Vinny Los Venuso does a show with me where Vinny makes the Hall of Fame case for. He's going to be doing the next one on somebody who is a semifinalist in the coaches contributors category, Seymour Siwoff. So that's
very interesting case. I know Vinny and a few other people really sort of support that. It's a very intriguing case to be made for contributors whose contributions is very unique, respected and valued, but is it what the Hall would reflect in terms of the contribution to the game?
But he's been on the radar for a while, and
yes,
if you're wondering who is he, he was the founder and creator of Elias Sports Bureau. So basically, the first real important stat geek.
And we all know today, right, how important that is across every business, big data analysis across all sports and various aspects. And a guy who was, I think we can safely say, decades ahead of his time. But I'll let Vinny make his case.
Oh, yeah. I'm looking forward to it. The last one that he did is up, which he did on Don Cherry, which was
was great.
And there's always the weekly show with Evan Nolan where we look at Hall of Fame related news. There's every now and then other random shows that I sometimes put on the Buchner verse because I just do. Why the hell not? It's hard being a mogul.
Well, it's your verse, so you can put on whatever you want.
Sometimes I do. Sometimes I even do it sober. With that, wherever you all are, wherever you may be, thanks for tuning in, and look for us next for Super Bowl 10. Don't tell us again. We don't want to know. We want to be surprised. Take care, everyone.
Yep, thanks.